At the center of what the Oklahoma Attorney General called a $1.5 billion drug operation was Hao Chen. He was the first to be arrested as part of Operation Blunt Force.
America, federal agents just busted a $1.5 billion trafficking ring stretching across multiple states. Operations funded by Chinese organized crime and using American citizens as human shields. The mastermind that we exposed last month, Chinese Chen.
Hello, fish. Bing bong ching chong.
He's walking free on bond.
Chen is in the process of bonding out. His bond, only $100,000.
They caught him red-handed running a criminal enterprise. Oklahoma's letting him walk free while the governor says the entire medical industry needs to be completely shut down, because when Chinese criminals exploit your system for billions and billions of dollars, clearly the answer is to punish everybody. What is up, guys? Tyson DeLaCruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. For those of you that missed our deep dive last month, here is a quick 30-second version of how Chinese Chen turned Oklahoma into Beijing's marijuana plantation. Here's how it works. U.S. law says you have to be a citizen or a legal resident to own a license in most states. So Chen found Americans probably desperate for money, cash, or needy, or greedy, and paid them to put their name on the license while he controlled everything.
Hao Chen's organization is responsible for more than $1.5 billion in black market marijuana, money laundering, and other racketeering activity.
Chinese nationals can't legally own marijuana businesses in Oklahoma, so Chen paid Americans to put the license and property in their names, and he controlled everything. The money, the operations, the supply chains. The Americans, they got the paperwork. The Chinese got the profit. And when it all collapsed, guess who's holding the bag? February 2026, federal agents launched what they're calling Operation Blunt Force. Great pun. The name's very fitting, and it's absolutely not subtle for what they found as well.
Chen's capture led to 19 more arrests, seized firearms, and law enforcement destroying thousands of pounds of black market marijuana.
They used a straw ownership scheme to unlawfully obtain licenses from the Oklahoma Medical Marijuana Authority and registrations from the Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics.
73 people arrested, operations in Oklahoma, operations in California, and distribution networks reaching states where marijuana is still illegal. And at the center of all this, the same playbook that we exposed with Chinese Chen. Chinese nationals recruiting Americans as fronts.
About every other state in the United States at some point was receiving large amounts, semi-trucks of black market marijuana that was grown in Oklahoma.
You hear about illegal marijuana grow busts almost weekly.
In southeast Oklahoma, more than a dozen arrests and thousands of marijuana plants are seized.
Marijuana legal in 2018, the Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics says law enforcement agencies in surrounding states have pointed the finger at the Sooner State, alleging at one point 40% of America's black market marijuana comes from here.
Primarily from China. I love how they phrase that like it's some kind of mystery, as if we didn't know for years that Chinese triads have been colonizing Oklahoma's marijuana industry and Midwestern farmland, while state regulators play three monkeys and see no evil, hear no evil, and speak no evil, except in this particular case, Mandarin, apparently.
Straw owners were paid to lend their identities to fraudulent grow applications.
Investigators discovered 20 illegal operations in Oklahoma and 7 other states, all manufacturing marijuana on an industrial scale. Authorities say the black market drugs were then trafficked across the country.
And here's the beautiful part. Every single one of these properties was legally owned by an American citizen. On paperwork, at least. This looks like a small-time American entrepreneur chasing the green rush. In reality, the Chinese mob was using Americans as human camouflage. Now, let me tell you about Oklahoma's justice system's latest galaxy brain move. Remember Chinese Chen, the guy that we exposed for orchestrating this entire scheme? Yeah. He's out on bond.
His bond, only $100,000 because the Attorney General failed to show up to today's hearing.
The attorney general didn't show. The judge listened to argument, set the bond at what he set it at, 100,000, GPS monitoring, surrender passport, restrictive travel.
Hours after a judge ruled on how Chen's bond, Chen's attorney says the Attorney General's office showed up to push for the bond to be increased to $1 million.
They show up at about noon. They file their own motion. We have to then go in front of another judge and then have another bond hearing in front of the district judge who sustained the special judge's reasoning and the ruling of the bond.
Prosecutors literally said this man has direct ties to China, ran a multi-million-dollar criminal organization, and has every reason to flee. And the judge's response, we considered all of it, but we don't even care. Guys, let's think about the logic for a second. Chen orchestrated an operation that recruited dozens of Americans as fronts, funneled money from China to Oklahoma, then possibly back to China, operated multiple illegal grow facilities, shipped product across state lines to illegal markets, generated hundreds and hundreds of $millions in revenue. In Oklahoma, they say, yeah, let him post bond. What's the worst that could happen? It's not like he has connections to foreign organized crime networks with resources to make him just kind of disappear.
They were already operating on the black market, but they were in places like California and New Mexico and other states. And during the pandemic, they came here, set up shop, and continue to work seamlessly, hiding behind a piece of paper that said that some local person is the owner who got a squeaky clean background.
The entire system is infiltrated, which means Chen isn't some lone wolf entrepreneur. He's a cog in the machine that's even bigger than Oklahoma can handle. And they just let him walk out knowing full well he's got an entire transnational criminal organization backing him up. You know what the flight risk is here? 100%. Hands down, Chen's not sticking around for trial. He's going to be sipping tea in China before the ink even dries on his bond paperwork. While judges are releasing Chinese mob bosses on bond, Oklahoma's governor has decided on a different approach, shutting down the entire medical marijuana industry.
I'm concerned about the taking. As a law enforcement officer, I'd love for it to be gone.
Attorney General Drummond says he wants the marijuana industry out of Oklahoma. Those are his comments just moments after he announced the results of Operation Blunt Force.
Notice the logic here, you guys. Chinese criminals exploit Oklahoma's medical marijuana system to build a $1 billion black market. So the solution is to punish legitimate businesses who had nothing to do with it. It's like shutting down all the banks because some of them got robbed.
I do applaud him for it, but don't hurt us because we have bad actors.
Governor Kevin Stitt says Oklahoma's medical marijuana system is beyond fixing, and now he wants to end it. But business owners say shutting it down would do more harm than good.
Thousands of legal operators, millions and millions of dollars in tax revenue, jobs for Oklahomians. I'm not even sure if that's a real word, but because the state failed to enforce its own regulations and let Chinese triads set up shop, now everybody has to pay the piper.
Well, guys, that's right. One bill aims to continue the moratorium on marijuana business licenses here in Oklahoma. And if that fails, the other bill looks to cap how many licenses are given out.
3143 is just an extension of the moratorium for the marijuana license, begin August 126, expiring August 128.
Oh, now they want oversight and enforcement. Where was this 3 years ago when Chen was recruiting Americans to front his operation? Where was the seed to sale tracking when Chinese nationals were buying half of Oklahoma's grow license through straw purchasers? This is Oklahoma's governmental playbook. Ignore the problem until it becomes a crisis, then overcorrect so hard that it destroys the entire industry. Let's talk about the Americans who made this possible, because Chinese Chen didn't force anybody at gunpoint to become a frontman. He paid them, and they said yes.
Chen is accused of being the leader of what the AG's office says is a criminal enterprise and running fraudulent marijuana licensing schemes.
$2 to $5 grand a month to let somebody use your name and social security number for a marijuana business that you didn't actually run. Sounds like easy money, right? Until the feds show up and you realize that you're legally liable for a multi-million-dollar criminal enterprise. And here's what these geniuses didn't understand. When you put your name on a business license, you are not just a paperwork puppet. You are the owner of record, which means when that operation gets busted for trafficking, tax evasion, money laundering, and organized crime ties, your name is on everything.
But as states legalized it, these criminal groups from Mexico and now China moved their operations into the U.S.
Woodward says it was Oklahoma's medical marijuana laws that made it easy for criminal organizations to fly under the radar and appear to operate legally.
The laws, they try to follow the laws so that at least on the surface there's no red flags. That's why it can be very complex to find out for sure what they're doing.
They didn't realize the legal consequences. Translation, they took Chinese mob money to commit fraud and thought that they never get caught. Now they're looking at federal prison time while Chen, the guy who actually ran the operation, is out on bond planning his escape route. This is what happens when you sell your legal identity to a foreign criminal organization for pocket change. You get the charges, they get the profit, and when it all falls apart, they go home to China while you go to federal prison. Oklahoma is not unique. This is happening everywhere medical marijuana is legal, but enforcement is weak.
A small price for a license, and yet the people behind that license are transnational criminal organizations that have been operating in the black market realm for a number of years before Oklahoma even legalized it.
California, Maine, Massachusetts, Michigan, same scheme. Chinese nationals recruit Americans as fronts. Americans get licenses. Chinese run the operation. Product gets diverted to black markets and illegal states. Money flows back to China. Rinse, repeat until the feds finally notice. And the response? Release the ringleader on bond and threaten to shut down the entire industry instead of just enforcing existing laws. You know what would actually fix this? Prosecute the Americans who sold their identities, deny bond for foreign nationals running criminal enterprises, enforce regulations already on the books. I know. It's crazy ideas. But instead, Oklahoma's playing whack-a-mole while Chinese organized crime laughs all the way to the Agricultural Bank of China. America, Operation Blunt Force just exposed a $1.5 billion marijuana trafficking ring run by Chinese organized crime using American citizens as disposable fronts. And Oklahoma's response tells you everything you need to know about how broken the system is. Chinese Chen, the mastermind who recruited Americans to front his criminal empire, walks out on bond despite prosecutors proving he's a flight risk with direct ties to China. Meanwhile, the Americans he manipulated are facing federal prison time because they were dumb enough to sell their identity for a monthly check. The governor wants to shut down the entire medical marijuana industry because the state failed to enforce its own regulations. Thousands of legitimate businesses threatened with closure because bureaucrats can't be bothered to notice that the Chinese triads were buying up licenses through straw purchasers. And instead of fixing the enforcement problem, politicians burned down the entire industry. Chinese Chen not showing up for trial. He's already planning which province in China is far enough away from extradition treaties. The Americans he recruited will spend years in federal prison wondering how $3,000 a month turned into a life sentence. And Oklahoma will destroy a legitimate industry because admitting regulatory failures is harder than collective punishment. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.